second down and 2. Mendenhall trying to step up, and the Cardinals are right there. Got good pressure, and then Valentine dropped him for a 2-yard loss. Shelton to throw, 3rd and long. He has run effectively in this game, throws on the run, and it's Harrison Blue at the 15-yard line.
Well, I tell you what, Sean Shelton made that play with his feet. Did you see him evade the rush? They flushed him to the right, and he's got a good arm. I tell you, he's going to be a good kid. Everybody just got to hang with this kid because he's going to be a good one.
Winterbank coming on the blitz, picked up by the Blue Knights. And Mendenhall gunning in and nearly intercepted. He is intercepted. Owen Hodges, if he can get past the pile, and he does!
And a boy, hang on to the ball. That's it. That's a Blue Springs boy. I got to throw that in there. And a boy, Owen. Good job. I want to welcome everybody again to another edition of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and it's my pleasure to have Coach Cruzy with me. And we're going to talk a little bit about our ball game last Saturday against Urbana, and I'm going to start off offensively. And I like to start off. I thought we moved the chains.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? I thought we got some first downs and did some things.
You know, we really did some good things offensively on Saturday. You know, we made some great plays down the field. We ran the ball well at times. We were multiple in what we were doing. A lot of guys did some really good things. Frustrating part of that is you can't end those great drives with turnovers.
Right.
And we've kind of had an Achilles heel there, and we've got to get over that. That's a learning curve for us, to grow up and stop doing those things. And it's guys trying to make plays, and we talk to them about their progression, and when it's not there, pull it down and run with it. And we did that a lot. And you see Sean pull it down after he got through his progression and run for 13, 14, 15 yards at times. And we've got to continue to do those things and take the plays that they're giving us to make, and we'll do a lot better. We'll have a lot better results.
I felt the same way. I felt like you had a couple misreads, to be very honest with you, and situations where you were driving the ball. And I think that comes a little bit with more experience at a higher level. There's a difference as you advance up to who you're playing,
right,
and level of competition. You might talk about the speed of the game, because that's what I think I noticed with Sean last week.
Well, I think their free safety was an All-American.
He's
coming back. He was an All-American. I think he led their conference last year in interceptions with 8 or 9, maybe something like that, some big number. And he was athletic, and he could do some things and played the ball very good in the air. And Sean's, as much as we all like to think, because of how he presents himself and how he goes about his business sometimes, that he's a junior or senior, he's a sophomore. And things with Sean, as far as him growing and us remembering he's still a sophomore at times, he's still going to make some of those mistakes at times, and every player is going to make some.
Oh, absolutely.
But we saw him get a lot better on Saturday and do some things as far as game management and moving the ball down the field, and he'll continue to grow as we go forward. But you're right, the level of competition, that was a really athletic secondary. That safety's really good, and their corners were good players, and they made some nice plays as well. I don't want to take some of the credit away from them, but we've got to get to a point where we're making better decisions there.
Yeah, we'll move on to the defense, and I thought overall it was a pretty solid effort. I thought you had them in a lot of situations where they hit some big plays, and at the end of that I'll talk about it. But why don't you talk about the positive side on the defense?
Yeah, we did some really good things defensively, as you alluded to, especially in the first half. I would almost go as far to say in the first half we dominated them in some areas, both offensively and defensively, and just didn't capitalize on some crucial situations. Offensively, you don't want to kill drives. Defensively, your money downs are third down.
Right.
And we had a hard time getting off the field on third down for whatever reason. We've been a very good third down team, since this group's been here and some of the things we do. And for whatever reason, Saturday, we were having a hard time making a play on third down. And it wasn't one thing. It was a bunch of little things when, you're just, as a coach, you're scratching your head going, okay, what's going to happen next? And, we missed on the tight end, and we missed some man coverage things, just alignment things, not being inside leverage when we're running a two-man concept with safeties over the top, giving them the easy throw inside and trailing the route. Now 15, he was a heck of he threw the ball well, the throwing quarterback they had in there, and he made some really nice throws. Yeah, 4 threw it well too, but 15 really came in to throw the ball and did it really well.
Feet.
Yeah, and we missed. We were in a zone pressure one time too, and the will linebacker is supposed to wall the tight end and gets his eyes caught in the backfield and just misses him on the touchdown that they threw to him in the second half. And so we missed some coverages on the tight end with some alignment things and leverage things, and then just big plays on third down. When you got somebody 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you need to get off the field.
Yeah.
And we didn't do that, especially in the second half last week, and that hurt us. Granted, they're a good offense. Not taking anything away from them. Like I mentioned last week, they're picked to win the conference during this year, and I'm not sure, looking at their schedule, they'll lose another game. So that's a very good team. They're experienced. They're big up front, and quarterbacks have been around a while, and
right.
They know what they're doing in their scheme because they've been playing in it for several years, and we didn't match that level of playmaking on Saturday in any phase of the game.
Well, the thing is, and like I said, defensively, I always pick our game apart on the way home by myself. They ran the zone read really well.
Yep.
They did a nice job with it, and that's the object. And they really did a nice job of play action to their tight end on 4 occasions that broke your back.
Yep.
And you might just tell the people, basically, you don't have to get into the zone read because we don't have a blackboard.
Right.
But like you said, your linebackers press the line of scrimmage a little more than that.
Yeah. Well, anytime you get a team like that, and what made them so difficult to defend was that number 4, the quarterback. He's a dual threat guy that will pull it down at any time and just take off.
Really good feet.
And that's we watched
quick feet.
Yeah, their first 2 games. I never saw in their first 2 games anybody ever hit him square, and that wasn't because people weren't having good opportunities.
Right.
He's one of those guys, they call him those wiry guys that you never can hit square, and if you hit them, they're going to bounce and roll and spin, and all of a sudden they're 10 yards down the field. So anytime you defend a dual threat quarterback like that, you've got to play a little bit differently with your linebackers. You've got to play them a little bit more patient because of some of the things that guy can do. And I thought we did a good job at times on him. He got us on a few as well where he pulled it down and did some things with his feet and extended the play and all that, and then we got hurt on play action. We were so ingrained on defending him and defending the things in the box with that couple big running backs that they had, that the play action stuff is what beat us down the field a lot of times on third down. And then there's 3 of those third downs, 2 of on the tight end, that we're in a pass call and we just take bad leverage on the tight end, and they complete the inside route to him, which is a pretty easy throw and catch.
That's all it is.
Right, and we've got to coach it better. My whole deal is if it's happening multiple times, then you need to look yourself in the mirror and make sure that you're coaching good technique and that the player understands exactly what he's supposed to do in those situations.
Well, again, and we'll move on to specialties in a second, but again, you look at your linebacker core, and we're playing up competition, which we no excuses, but that's where we're at. It's a little quicker game. The guys can get off the ball, can get off the block, can get down the field, got quicker feet than what you're used to.
Yeah, they had some receivers. Number 11 was a very good receiver. As much as I'd like to think that was our problem with the tight end, he didn't run very good, but he understood body positioning and understood that if he could get inside the defender on the route, they could throw him the slant in the drag and all of those things. So they did a nice job with that. But we're still growing as well, and you alluded to it. We're at a different level of competition here. The positive things for me is that, like I said a little while ago, I felt like we dominated them in some areas in the first half if we don't shoot ourselves in the foot on some things.
You bet. Okay, we'll go to specialty teams, and we'll go flip-flop, positive, negative. We'll go negative, positive.
Yeah.
Catching the punt.
Yeah.
I mean, what else?
Frustrating.
And I like to get, I love you and love the kids, but catch the punt.
Oh, you're telling me that's the most frustrating thing. You go out there and you don't catch a punt.
2 games.
The hard thing
because we had that field position.
Yeah, the defense in the last game, I don't buy that.
It bounced.
That was one of those hops that I didn't know what to tell the punt returner that game on that hop, and I still don't. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to tell him to play that better, and that's a bounce that's going to happen every time. And so, but last week, our regular punt returner and Chris Stewart. Friday in practice, he's got plantar fasciitis and he steps wrong on Friday in practice, and his instep drops and it popped, and So if anybody's had ever foot problems, you understand that it's hard, and those are painful things, and you can't drive off your toe. So he played the first play of the game because, as you noticed, we had kind of a trick play there with the double reverse throwback to Sean. We had to run it with him because he's the only one that worked on it all week. So he struggled through painfully during that, and we weren't asking for him to get downfield or do anything really, but kind of help be a decoy and some timing of some things. We find out before the game that it's not healing, and there's no way we can go put him out there. So, the next few guys haven't taken near as many reps,
right,
and they're young. We've got some really young guys that are dynamic athletically, but you play young guys, you're going to get young mistakes at times. And, we put 2 guys back there thinking that, okay, we're going to increase our chances to, on a day like this when it's raining and all those other things are going on with the circumstances there with Chris being out, we're going to put 2 guys back there to make sure we're catching things. And then we had, a guy who's normally kicks it as a 33-yard average, boom the first one at 49, and then hit another one over 50.
Right.
So, and they're running it, trying to catch it over their head and trying to communicate between the 2 of them. And it was a bad situation, and we're going to coach that better. We've talked about a lot of things already this week on how we can do that and make sure we're focusing only on 2 guys in practice doing that. So they're getting the majority of the reps instead of maybe running 3 or 4 guys through it, because we're trying to get some young guys going. Right. And catching punch is such a crucial position.
And Rick asked me on the air, it's a hard skill.
It's a hard thing to do.
And if you get one, you got to love him.
It's like a lot of things, outfielders and, the ball spin, and if the nose is up, on a punt, it's going to fall backwards. As soon as it hits its peak, it's going to start to fall away from you. If it turns over, it's going to fall forward. And it's all of those little nuances, and then you add climate and weather into it, rain and wind and those other things, and that ball is going to do some funny things on a punt return. You've got to worry about catching the ball, and then 11 guys hauling tail end down the field at you, and you're just praying your guys stay in front of them, because if you catch it and they're not, you're going to take a heck of a lick.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things that go into catching punts. It looks really easy.
Oh, I told Rick
but it's one of the hardest things.
It's tough stuff.
One of the hardest skills in football, and you've got to put some guys back there that are game savvy and some of those things. And unfortunately, we don't have as many guys who have experience doing that because of our youth, and that's no excuse. We've got to grow up. We've got to grow up in a hurry, and we've got to do a better job of making sure that we're getting plenty of reps for some of those guys back there.
Well, on the positive note, and I sincerely mean this, back and it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Your punting game and your place kicker came through again. Both those kids had good days.
Yeah, our punt team was really good.
Really good.
And our field goals, Daniel hits another really good one. It goes 50-some yards and bounces out inside the 20. And, I mean, you couldn't draw it up any better. And our coverage was good on punt, and our kickoff team I thought was good. They got a couple on us early, and after that,
they got a little seam early.
the 2 early, and then after that we did a great job on kickoff, and I was really excited for Warren. We got in some situations where we had some longer field goals. They weren't short ones. They weren't 50, 60 yarders, but 40 yarders.
In that weather.
When you've got heavy air, the ball doesn't carry near as well, and you've got to hit it pretty good even to get it 40, and kicking it from a hash and some of those things. And to see him be 100% on field goals again. Those are the first 2 field goals we kicked all year, just because of opportunities to be able to do that.
Sure.
So that was very good, and the protections were good there. So we did some really good in our kickoff returns. We averaged over 25 yards of return, getting those things going, and that's with mishandling one with a young guy in there.
Yeah.
We got some other guys in there late in the game, and we broke a few when we're starting with field position at the 45 and some of those things. So, our special teams, despite our debacle on punt return, about every time that we had a punt return, the rest of our special teams were really solid and really were a bright spot for us in the game. So that's positive. We're making growth there. Like I said, we've got to continue to grow in all areas of the game, and to get to the point where we're going to be able to win some of those games against really good competition.
You bet, and that'll lead us into the players of the week. And
yeah,
you've got a couple right there, specialty teams, but go ahead and roll.
Yeah, I'll start with the special teams since we're on that. You know, it came down. We had several guys play good in the special teams area because we played well in several of them.
Right.
You know, Daniel Megan was a candidate, and we went with Warren. You know, being 100%, 2 for 2 on 40 yarders plus. That's a big thing, and that's big for our team to get those points on the board.
Great job by him.
You know, offensively, you know, Shane Gibson did some good things, and this ties into special teams as well. He was one of our candidates for special teams. He also had a very good day offensively from a grading out standpoint, playing a tight end position and an H-back position that does a lot of things. He's doing everything we're asking him to do right now. And as you know, as a coach, you ask players to do one thing, you know, and to do that thing and don't do anything else. Don't do anybody else's job. Do what we ask you to do and do it with a high level of effort, and he's doing that right now. And we're getting what we want from him. We went with him offensively. Defensively, Tyler Bullis had a very productive day.
Played great
at the defensive end, defensive
tackle
position.
That's what I forgot to mention on the defensive part.
He was dynamic. Had a lot of production. Had 2 forced fumbles. The second play of the game was one of the better defensive line plays I've seen a defensive lineman make in a long time. It's a screen to our boundary. He rushes up the field, turns and redirects on the screen, runs it down, gets there, strips the ball out, falls on the ball, and the ball, I told him the only thing that could have made it better had he made the tackle, forced the fumble, and recovered the fumble. But that was a high-effort play, and he's doing some really good things for us right now.
That was a great play.
You know, on our work team guys, and we're talking about the guys that are going against our young guys most of the time that are going against our offense and defense in practice. And you know, this week we went with a guy offensively, Quentin Reiser. Quentin played some for us on Saturday. He was one of those young guys we had in there in the return game. And talk about a dynamic athlete. I mean, he can really run. He and his brother do some really good things. And you know, he's had a tremendous week of practice over the last 2 weeks here. And, you know, thought his effort and the look that he's given us in those areas has been tremendous. And then defensively, a young man that we actually got late. We signed him during training camp this year. A young man by the name of Austin Hooten that you'll hear a lot about in the future. He's from Staley High School. He's one of their team captains for the last couple of years, and you know, all-state guy and defensive lineman. Boy, he's active. Coach Majors, you know, we vote on these things as coaches, and Coach Majors made the comment that, you know, last week in practice he'd be frustrated and he'd be yelling at the offense because something bad happened. He'd always look up and it'd be Austin Hooten standing there, playing very hard and giving the offense a really good look. He is a very good player. We're super excited about him because of getting him in here late during training camp. We're probably going to end up redshirting him this year, but boy, if we had to play him right now, we wouldn't drop off much, if any. And so that's exciting for him. You know, our play of the week and hit of the week, we went with Caleb Sims again, another true freshman for us from Park Hill South High School that was the big hit of the week in the first game, playing at the free safety position. He had a guy on a crossing route, and the play was over. I mean, it stopped right there, and it was a pretty big receiver, and it was a nice play by him. He was our hit of the week, and then our play of the week, going back to Tyler Bullis on that, you know, that second play of the game where he runs down there on the screen, gets the ball out and covers it and all those things. So those are the guys we went with this week, and it's good. It was nice again this week to have a bunch of plays to choose from. You know, unfortunately we come off on the bottom end of it from a win-loss standpoint, but a lot of positives we see from that game and that we can build on going forward.
Well, it's good to hear all those names from local high schools.
Yeah.
You know where I'm from. So
yep.
It's all good. Well, we're going to now talk about somebody that we know pretty well, and that's Pitt State, our opponent next Saturday. That 7 o'clock start, I believe.
7 o'clock in Pittsburgh.
Over at Pittsburgh, Kansas. And I just want to say, preface to that I think the Cardinal fans need to realize they are playing one of the quality programs at Division II level. They've won a lot of national championships, a program that speaks for itself. I mean, if you know anything about local football, Division II, that's one of the names that comes up. Right. So why don't you talk a little bit about the Gorillas?
Boy, the Gorilla, and you prefaced it well. You know, this is a team that we know, a coaching staff that we know well, and a team that we know well from the sense that, you know, the coaches that are coaching there, Tim Beck is the head coach, was the offensive coordinator there for years and the assistant head coach, and did a lot of things as far as helping run the team. And then their defensive coordinator, and Tim does a lot with the offense, and their defensive coordinator is a guy by the name of Dave Weimers, who gave me my first coaching job. Yeah. I coached for him for 6 or 7 years at Emporia State when he was the head coach there, and he's running the defense that we ran at Emporia, and so that's Coach Majors and I are sitting in there watching today, and it's comforting to see that some of those things that we did back then still work, and he's doing it with some really good players right now too, which is great. But really good football coach is Steve Rampy, their offensive coordinator.
Steve well. He used to be the head coach of
Blue Valley, and watching him,
Kansas championship.
Yeah, watching him through the years, and I'm so excited for him. He had such a great high school coaching career. He's a legend. Yeah. Especially in this area, and to be able to retire a couple years ago and then still go do what he loves and coach football and be very productive as an offensive coordinator and at the college level. It's a great group of guys from a coaching staff perspective, and there's a comforting part of it for us. Ryan Majors coached down there for Tim Beck for 2 years, and so he knows all of those guys really well, and I know them all real well, and so it's comforting to know you're going to go in and play against friends. Now it's also you play against your friends. It's just like anything else when you're competitive. It's
harder to play against.
It's harder to play against your friends in a way that the drive to compete goes up a level, if that's even possible.
No, it's much harder. We both know.
But so we're excited about that. They're very good, and they've been, like you said, they've been good for years. They had a couple years where their win-loss record didn't, maybe show some of the good things they were doing, but they're watching them on film here the last couple of days. They're the Pittsburgh of old. I mean, they are special. They can score it offensively. Their defense is dynamic. Their front seven are maybe, I go out on a limb here and say, man, they might be the best at the Division II level. Their front seven on defense. And they do some really good things up there in a really good scheme, and they're coached really well, and they're good on special teams. And, anytime you play a program like that has the kind of tradition and long-standing tradition that's had their success, it's going to be a very formidable opponent.
Well, it's going to be a total different atmosphere for the kids. The place will be packed. They're going to play in a class pro or a facility. I mean, it's top notch, and it's going to be packed. I mean, there won't be, a few people. There'll be a lot of people.
I think it seats like 12 or 13,000, and I just read earlier in the season or late in the summer, they were named the number 12 or 13 college football fan experience in the country. That's at all levels. I mean, it's an unbelievable experience to go down there and play football. Still to this day, probably the most memorable experience I've had in coaching was when we played them down there in 2003, and we're very, very fortunate to beat them on their homecoming. And just the environment, whether it was our fans or their fans, but the environment that it was, is what we're striving for here. And that didn't happen overnight down there either, and Northwest too, and that didn't happen up there overnight. Those things take time to build, but boy, they've got it rolling now, and I'm excited for our kids to be able to go and compete in that type of environment.
Well, they'll see what it's like.
Yeah, and we'll do some things with them, prior to the game to get them adjusted and make sure that they're not awestruck when they walk into that stadium, and their 60-foot by 40-foot video board in the end zone, all of those things that go along with it. But it'll be loud, it'll be exciting, it'll be a great college football environment. And you know how it is as a coach. We're going to go in there on Saturday thinking we can win it, and we'll be disappointed if we don't. And if we're not doing it that way, then we shouldn't be doing this as players or coaches. And our players are very resilient right now. You'd be surprised at how well they're handling all of the adversity in a year when you move up from the NAI level to the NCAA level. They've handled things very well. The win early helped. And losing the last two to Division II opponents, what they can see is that in both of those games, we competed well. We just shot ourselves in the foot on some things, and we didn't execute in some very key spots, and the ending results weren't positive.
Well, that's where we're headed, and that's where we want to go, to be honest.
That's exactly right.
Hopefully we'll see a lot of Cardinal fans at 7 o'clock down at Pittsburgh, Kansas. That ought to be a wrap again for the Inside the Cardinal Playbook.